Yo, 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 welcome to Unit 5, Land and Water Use Review. Number 1, describe the circumstances that will result in a tragedy of the commons. So, let's describe it. We have a situation in a shared resource system where individual users acting independently according to their own self-interest behave contrary to the common good of all by depleting or spoiling the shared resource through their collective action. Describe an example of a tragedy of the commons. So I'm going to write it up here, number 2. We have fishing, in the world's oceans, number 3, how are commons protected? They require common governance by the international community. Number 4, what is clear cutting? So, it is a practice in which most or all trees in an area are uniformly cut down. Number 5, what are 2 environmental problems associated with clear cutting? So, primary one that affects organisms would be that habitat loss. So let's write that down. Habitat loss. And like I said, loss of biodiversity. And then there's also less stable soil, leading to increased soil erosion and sedimentation. What was the Green Revolution and why is it important? It is a large increase in crop production in developing countries, achieved by the use of fertilizers, pesticides, and high yield crop varieties. List 4 innovations that led to the Green Revolution. we had chemical fertilizers, pesticides, fossil fuels to run the machines, farm machinery. Okay, identify 3 examples of organic compounds and 3 examples of inorganic compounds. So, organic compounds simply contain carbon and hydrogen. So, carbon and hydrogen. And then inorganic compounds lack that. So, inorganic lacks carbon, hydrogen bonds. So we have water, we have phosphate, and then sulfides. Examples of the organic would be alcohol, alkalines, and then proteins. Humans began agriculture approximately 10,000 years ago. To live a healthy, active life, most adults need to consume approximately 2,000 calories of food each day. Number 11. Arrange the following foods in order of highest to lowest in terms of global production: corn, rice, and wheat. So the first one would be corn, rice, and then wheat. Number 12, match the following. So iron deficiency is anemia. Vitamin A deficiency, blindness. Vitamin D deficiency, rickets. Iodine deficiency would be goiter. And then vitamin C deficiency leads to scurvy. Okay, number 13. What is tilling? What are some environmental impacts of tilling? So tilling is plowing or harrowing the land to prepare to cultivate. Some environmental impacts would be tilling can lead to increase soil erosion, disrupts soil structure, and accelerates surface runoff. Number 14, why do people do slash and burn? How does this impact the environment? So, slash and burn allows people to farm in areas where there is usually dense vegetation and increase the nutrient in the soil. So the negative impact that it introduces a huge amount of CO2 into the atmosphere, reduces habitat, and leads to loss of biodiversity. Number 15, compare inorganic to organic fertilizers. Which kind are more likely to run off? So, organic fertilizers composed of organic matter from plants and animals. Inorganic fertilizers provide easy targeted application, and plants can easily absorb them. Inorganic fertilizers are more likely to run off. For each irrigation method listed below, diagram how the method works. So I'm going to draw this pipe here, and then right next to it is the plot, and I'm going to draw the plant here. So with drip irrigation, the water drips directly to the crop. So for flood irrigation, I have a field, okay, and I'm going to represent it as this, and then with flood, water is just drowning the field. Furrow irrigation, very similar. Between that, water is feeding there. With spray irrigation, I have a sprinkler system, and that sprinkler system distributes the water over the entire field. Which irrigation system is most efficient, why, and which one is least efficient, and why? So let's go with the most efficient first. Most efficient. And it is considered to be the drip irrigation, because it does not have a lot of water, evaporation, and uses the least amount of energy. Okay, then we have the least efficient. Which is the furrow irrigation. Because about 35% of water runs off or is lost to evaporation. Number 18, what is salinization and how does it occur? So, salinization refers to a buildup of salts in soil. So how does it occur? So I'm going to write that above here. So how does it occur? Well, it can occur as a result of using irrigation water or over exploitation of aquifers, causing sea water intrusion. Okay, number 19, how do farmers deal with salinization? They improve the efficiency of irrigation channels, capture and treat salty drainage water, desalting plants, increase the amount of water reaching aquifers. What is an aquifer? So it is a body, it's a body of permeable rock which can contain or transmit groundwater. Where is the Ogallala Aquifer located? What is aquifer primarily used for? So, it's located in the Great Plains of the U.S., used primarily for agriculture. How do impervious surfaces impact aquifers? So if it prevents the rainwater from replenishing, the groundwater supply. Use the axes below to draw and label an illustration of the pesticide treadmill. So, I'm going to label this with time, year, and pest population. So, start off 0 here, then all the way up here, 600. Then, as time moves forward, we have an overall trend of the pest increasing. Okay, so again, the pesticide treadmill is simply that the pest species will decrease at the very beginning, but then that certain species will get resistant to that pesticide. And so new pesticides must be created in order for the pesticides to continue to work and kill off the pests. Rachel Carson wrote the book Silent Springs to raise people's awareness of the harmful effects of pesticide DDT. DDT was a commonly used pesticide in the 1950s. Why is DDT considered a broad-spectrum pesticide? Why was it banned? So, 25. DDT kills a wide range of insects, and it was banned because of the negative environmental impacts it had on the bird and shellfish population. It also caused the eggs of the birds to be soft. Number 26, in the table below, lists at least 2 advantages and disadvantages to chemical pesticides. So, advantages would be that it results in higher crop yields, and then increased profit for farmers. Disadvantages would be that it increased pesticide resistance, fishery and bird losses. Okay, 27. How does integrated pest management differ from solely using chemical pesticides? Give some examples of IPM methods. So, 27. We're going to write it right beneath it. So it's an ecosystem based strategy. That focuses on long-term prevention of pests or their damage through a combination of techniques such as biological control, habitat manipulation, modification, of cultural practices, and use of resistant varieties. 28. The acronym GMO refers to genetically modified organisms. which are manipulated. Manipulated in the lab through genetic engineering. 29. In the table below, list at least 2 advantages and disadvantages of GMOs. So an advantage would be more nutritious food, less use of pesticides, aka pest-resistant strains. Disadvantages: may develop food allergies, and then antibiotic resistance. Use the information in the diagram on the left to answer the following. So, A, the percent change in per capita global production of protein from poultry between 1980 and 2000 was approximately. So, 1980, I'm going to draw this in green. We're looking at poultry. So 1980 is right here. And then 2000 has it a little bit right here. So giving those approximate values, y'all, approximate values, we look to see that it looks like it's around 26. So again, it is new minus old divided by old times 100% to get our percent change. So that value looks like it's around 26. So I'm going to show my work over on the side here. 26 minus the original number was, it looks like to be maybe 14. So 14 divided by 14 times 100%. And when I do that, y'all, we get around 85.71%. Okay, then we're looking at farmed fish. So in the same year, 1980 to 2000, we have values. I'm going to plug them in. So the final value was 13-ish minus 3 divided by 3 times 100%. And it looks like we have around 300.33% increase in farmed fish. Then the percent change in per capita for beef, y'all, beef from 1961, which is this value here below 20, and just above 20, we're going to have a 21 minus 19 over 19 times 100%, and that gets us 10.53%. 31. Why is meat production inefficient? It requires masses of grain, water, and land. 32. Who eats more meat, developed or developing countries? And why? So the answer is developed countries, y'all. Because meat is more expensive to produce. 33. Compare overgrazing to free range or free grazing meat production methods. How can overgrazing lead to desertification? Okay, so overgrazing occurs when farmers allow livestock to graze to the point where they damage the vegetation. Free grazing, free grazing is allowing cows to graze freely in the fields close to farms and dairies. They remove or damage vegetation that is protecting the land and keeping it moist and fertile. Complete the following chart. So we have open pit mining. This is a lot of information, y'all. Get ready. So, surface mining, extracting rock or minerals from the earth by their removal from an open pit or borrow. Okay, environmental consequences. It can release toxic compounds into the air and water. So as water takes on harmful concentration of minerals and heavy metals, it becomes a contaminant. Okay? Subsurface mining is the extraction of minerals and ores from underground. Environmental consequences: erosion, air and wind pollution, air and water, y'all. Pollution, land destruction, and it can harm mine workers. So strip mining. Strip mining is a practice of mining a seam of mineral. So practice of mining a seam of mineral by first removing a long strip of overlying soil and rock. So destroys landscapes, forests, wildlife, habitats at the site, This in turn leads to soil erosion and destruction of agricultural land. Okay, so trees, plants, and topsoil are cleared from the mining area. Okay, now mountaintop removal. The tops of mountains are removed, exposing the seams of coal. So decapitated peaks, deforestation, and creates a significant carbon footprint. Drilling, so making holes into a rock mass. Then substantial toll on local water sources, biological life, and natural resources. Through pollution, degradation, and direct damage. Match each of the following elements with its ore. So Galena, y'all really don't need to know this, but y'all need to provide some detail on the FRQ. Here we have it, y'all. Define the term ecological footprint. So it's the impact of a person or community on the environment. Expressed as the amount of land required to sustain their use of natural resources. 38. How does an ecological footprint of a developed country compare to a developing country? Why? So developed countries have a much larger ecological footprint as a result of the increased energy demand. 39. How do farmers keep their soil in place? Describe at least 2 techniques. So I'm going to actually show that down here. 39, whoops. So 39, farmers plant strips of vegetation. They practice no-till farming strategies. 40. A rectangular area of forest that measured 10,000 meters by 300,000 meters has an area of blank in square kilometers and blank hectares. So here we go. We have 10,000 meters times 300,000 meters, and this gets us square kilometers, so 3 billion. So I'm going to convert that to scientific notation, y'all, moving the decimal place 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 3 to the 9 square kilometers. Next, I'm going to convert that into hectare. So the conversion factor is 1 square kilometer is equal to 100 hectare. So to convert that, y'all, I need to convert it to the kilometer first. So I'm going to move that decimal 3 places, and then it turns into 3 times 10 to the 6 kilometer squared, or square kilometers. And now I can use dimensional analysis. So 1 square kilometer, 100 hectare. So when I do that, I get 3 times 10 to the 8 hectare. So a company is importing rare tropical hardwood to manufacture furniture. List 3 laws, regulation, treaties, or acts that the company may have violated. So the first one that we're going to talk about, y'all, would be the CITES. It's a treaty on international trade of endangered species. Then we have the Lacey Act. So prohibits the interstate transport of wild animals without a permit. And 3, the Kyoto Protocol, an agreement to reduce GHG emissions, greenhouse gases, for those of you guys who don't know that, during the harvesting of lumber. 42. For each of the methods below, describe how the process leads to sustainable forests. So reforestation, replanting an area with trees. Reusing wood, there's no need to harvest new wood. Ecological sustainable wood comes from sustainable or sustainably managed forests. And the prescribed burns, intentional, fire set to lower the risk of large wildfires. 43. Dredging is a technique typically used to harvest scallops, crabs, and shrimp from the sea floor. 44. A fishing practice that is commonly used to catch large solitary species of fish and was featured in The Perfect Storm is long lining. 45. Compare a purse seine to a drift net. So the purse seine would be nets used to encircle a school of fish. And weights are pulled at the bottom. Bottom to secure the catch. And then the drift nets, I'm going to define in this space here. The drift net would be nets that are vertical set along designated areas in order to catch things that entangle in it. 46. What is bycatch and what are ghost nets? So bycatch is anything that is caught that is not the intended catch. Ghost nets are nets left behind by fishermen that cause entanglement. 47. Aquaculture has increased in the past 20 years. What are some items that are commonly farmed in aquaculture? So salmon, shrimp, and oysters. In the table below, identify advantages and disadvantages to fish farming. So advantages would be the reduces fishing pressure on wild stock, and then increases jobs. Then the other is diseases from keeping fish in close proximity to each other. And then is also expensive. Cost to set up is a disadvantage. Okay, y'all, that's it for today. Have a good one.